Hello. I'm just trying to work out where the microphone stands because I haven't actually used one of these before, so this will be quite good. I am... I would if I could. So I'm the one who's following everyone else. After 5 amazing speakers, you get stuck with the student who thinks he can talk. But my grandma said I can do good talk, so I can do this. I believe myself. So I'm here to talk about why stealth points and why high scores suck in video games. Not in video games as a whole, more specifically to stealth games, and the reason why we're all here for spy stuff. So, backstory, I am a student at University of Arts London. I am also just come back from EGX after exhibiting a game where it had nothing to do with stealth. So, good luck with that one. So, a bit more about me. I am a massive fan of stealth games. One of the first games I really got into try is Metal Gear Solid. It is one of my favorite franchises, and furthermore, beyond that, I'm a bit of a competitive person. Everyone who knows me knows I'm a competitive person, and because of that, thanks to the release of trophies, my life is now hell. I recently, well not recently, but a while back, I played through Deus Ex, and you're not quite sure if you can read the 2 top trophies, but as I was going through the list of trophies on Deus Ex, like I do most games nowadays, I found 2 trophies, which was to not kill anybody and not be spotted, which led to the most frustrating playthrough of a game I've ever had in my entire life. However, I do also think it wasn't the greatest playthrough I've ever had, and one of the most memorable stories in a game I've ever done, just because I literally went through the whole thing, resetting countless times, not killing anybody or being spotted. One of those trophies I didn't get, and I still stand by, I did not break it. I think it was killing anybody, which I'm still quite angry about, but we'll carry on from that. So, stealth games are cool beans, is should be the title of my talk. Essentially, all kinds of stealth games are great. They allow for a lot of freedom for the player, which is perfect in terms of like letting you do your own thing, which is kind of what games really are about. Like one of the most important factors of games over every other kind of media is it's your kind of story through it. You get to do what you want, you get to approach every chapter in your own way, you get to explore it in your own way. And stealth games are a perfect way of exempling this. So up there you got Metal Gear Solid, shown it before, Hitman and Mark of the Ninja, which is a new one that came out recently, which is pretty good. All of them have mechanics in them which really make you be able to approach it in a lot of different ways. It's kind of one of the core elements of stealth games. And by stealth games, I'm kind of talking about the ones where the developers have purposely gone out their way to make it so that you are not to be spotted. You know, the point of the game is that you feel like you're James Bond or Bourne, except less explosions, more sneaking around. Yeah, you get the idea. So one of the most brilliant things about these is the kind of, like I say, the stories that are created out of it. Now, stories in stealth games, in my opinion, are some of the most powerful you can get. Because outside of the terrible narratives in Metal Gear Solid and the questionable stories in Hitman Absolution, which no one will talk about, Mark of the Ninja had a strange twist at the end if everyone played that. The actual gameplay stories of those games are amazing because you really get to explore it. It's your journey all the way through it. You remember taking out those guards, you remember the walking placements of them all, you remember which way was the perfect route to go through. It was your own way of approaching it. And the most brilliant things about these stealth games is that you know that your mate or someone else probably did it in a different way because of the amount of options the developer gives you in terms of approaching these levels. It's the core of stealth, is the idea that you get so many options behind it all. So that's kind of a coverage of stealth, which I'm probably sure you've all heard, and you probably hear a lot more times. But one of the kind of important parts I want to talk about this is how stealth incorporated itself into the kind of online world. So with this, you've got the local multiplayer as represented by Woody and Buzz Lightyear, and then you've got the online as represented by 2 things. A guy saying you'll never be picked last on the team again, which is a lie, it happens still, but you know, the idea is that once games move into an online space, markets for it need it. Most games have to have an online element to it nowadays, which kind of forces them in a way to include these online elements because, you know, if you don't have it, people don't talk to their mates about it, it doesn't sell as well, and that's a big problem. If you don't have that in a game nowadays, if you don't have an online element, people will never buy it. And that's the assumption, which is incorrect. But because of this, a lot of online games have kind of moved into this kind of, making their own multiplayers for it. And some games have done it well. Metal Gear Solid had a whole other online part of it. No one played it, but I thought it was quite fun. Assassin's Creed also has quite a fun one. It's broken all the time, but when it does work, it's quite good. It kind of encapsulates those single-player moments you have in a multiplayer world, where it's so much more fun because you're not dealing with an AI who basically recognizes when you walk around a corner or not. You actually get to deceive somebody by, continuously walking through a crowd until someone thinks that you are an AI rather than you are a person, almost like some of the talks on before talking about that. But not all developers, not all companies can afford these kind of whole massive multiplayer aspects of stealth games. And so, the new Metal Gear Solid, the online's been delayed, it's been made by a different company entirely. Ubisoft's got so many small companies around the world that, it's being made in so many different places. It's not really part of the single player, it's somebody else. So, the question developers have to ask themselves is, how do we have an online element to a stealth game without having to pour loads of development costs into this one section of it, which keeps it entertaining? And so you end up with kind of what happened with Hitman Absolution. Now, there's something on this screen which became the worst, the worst thing of my entire life for a good 2 months. And, I'd give it out to a guess to anybody. Can anyone guess what on this screen is just the worst thing ever to somebody who is maybe a bit competitive, pretty much a completionist? My guess is? It's a number in the top left corner. That is the single worst thing you can put in a game. Not in, you got your old school arcade games, and they're perfectly fine. They're built around a mechanic, which means you have to get a high score. That's brilliant. Everyone enjoys that. Everyone enjoys the fun of competition and, the feeling of getting points when you get that little bit of dopamine in your brain that says, wow, well done, you've done something good. But, when you're playing a stealth game, when you've been given all these options and these levels have been designed so they've been done in so many different ways, the worst thing you can have in it is someone sitting behind you telling you at each point that you're doing it wrong, And for someone like me who sees this high score, finishes level, realizes their brother is like 10,000 points more than you, and sits there and goes, well, I'm going to have to play that again then. It becomes a nightmare, especially when you include in it that the massive bonuses to not killing anyone or being seen is huge. And sometimes you don't want to have to go through a whole game without killing anybody or being seen. You just want to explore it and experience it for the way you want to have it. Maybe you don't want to go out of the way to ruin someone's day by killing them, but at the same time, sometimes you just kind of go about the mission in a way that is your own way of doing it. It's a personal side of it. So one of the brilliant parts about stealth, apart from all the explosions it gives you, is the fact that it's almost like creating a character creation without having a character creation. You do it yourself. Like, you find yourself maybe using the fiber wire more than the pistols, or maybe using the tranquilizer in Metal Gear Solid more than like the what was that weird? There's a really weird weapon in one of the Metal Gear Solid games, but I can't think of the name of it. The Patriot, the unlimited ammo thing you get at the end, basically. Like, you get to choose which way you go about it, and that's such a natural way of players choosing which way they play the game, as opposed to just having the generic create a class kind of system where you just pick it all the way through. And that is kind of the most important part about games, is that you should be able to play it without being judged by anybody else in it. So having a point system in the corner and having minus 1,000 points each time you accidentally kill somebody, or each time you just feel, this guy's just, I've had a day. This guy's going to get it. I'm just, he's next to a skip. He's next to like a cliff. He probably is a bad guy anyway. I haven't been told anything else about him, but, it's like you want to be able to just have those kind of moments and those kind of freedom in games that kind of lets you into this space of play that you're usually in. But when you get minus 100 points, minus 1,000 points, and the game's telling you, no, by the way, you shouldn't do that, it's damaging. It totally takes you out of the game. It's a moment of breaking immersion, which you can't really recover from. And like I said, for someone like me who likes to play it and beat most of the high scores and get some trophies and stuff, it's a nightmare. I ended up actually rage quitting Hitman, I have to say, just because at the point I just realized I wasn't actually playing it for the game anymore. I was playing it for the end score. I wasn't experiencing all the levels that the game designers made it for, like all the different options and stuff. I found myself just like almost trial and error each time to find which way the best route was, to the point where one of them where you're trying to climb down a mountain to this secret military facility, something like that. Like, I sprinted from one side of the map to the other because I discovered that the way the guards work is that there's actually a route you can just sprint down. So whereas everyone else is, you know, walking all cool and nonchalant around, there's this dude in the background with a suit on in Hitman just sprinting through, you know, and no one notices him because he's just out of the eye line of a lot of people. So I had to break away from it. But the problem, of course, is that there's an argument to be made that in some stealth games, you kind of need that in because of, well, one, the online aspect that I was talking about is a great way of people competing against each other. But another part is that sometimes when you're a developer and you're talking about, you know, to the rest of the dev team, how do you want people to play this game? You don't want people to go through shooting everybody. You know, you want people to play it the way it's played. You're meant to be this stealthy person who is never seen throughout the entire thing. But, you know, that ruins what kind of games are. When you've got films where you have to watch someone go through the whole thing, you've got books where you read someone go through the whole thing. Like, the best way I think of describing games to somebody is it's kind of like a book that's totally blank. It's just loads of blank pages, and all you have on the front cover is a set of rules that you just can't abide by. And you fill it in however you want. Yeah, throw those cutscenes in, throw those pages in the middle of the pictures that make people kind of a bit happy about seeing it. But the middle bits, the most important core parts of those bits, are your story, and your story going through it. And you should never take that away from the player. You should never judge the player on what they're writing inside this book, because it's important that you have that experience, so you memorize it for later. You know, should have been on this slide for it, but that's the point. You can be the person who went through the whole thing killing everybody. You can be the person who went through the whole thing just hiding out of it. That's your own experience of the game. So by people putting in these elements of it that force you to play it where you should do, ruins the whole point of it. You can go watch a film if you want to watch someone go shoot everything. You can go you can read a book if you want to read about someone who's sleuthing about. Games are about your own experience of it, and you should never take that away when you've got a medium that allows you to do that. So that's pretty much my speech. The 2 points is that, well, I do want to finish on, the points can still be used, definitely. They're really important for games and allow for a great competitive nature. I'm not sure if anybody here went to EGX, but I found myself on the last day. PlayStation had a little like 20th anniversary booth on. I spent the last day trying to get the fastest lap on Ridge Racer. And oh my God, it took me years, and I got third, and I was devastated. But it was really fun. By the end of it, it was a competitive nature because, yeah, it wasn't points, but it was still 4 guys, or people. It was 4 sweaty guys, to be honest, which is great for representation on games. But, you know, we were just having a good time competing again, and I really got in that moment what arcade gaming is about, that kind of idea that you compare high scores to each other, which is brilliant. And in stealth games, it has a place. You can play through a level and not judge the player. Metal Gear Solid does it in the new one where once you finish the level, you get your points afterwards, which is a step in the right direction. But to be honest, that's still a bit of a hindrance. You should really only allow for your players to get judged when they want to play through it the second time. When they go to themselves, I want to try a second time. You can give them the option, and that's perfectly fine, because it is actually quite fun when you get into it, when you're trying to compete with levels. But on your first playthrough, on the playthrough where you just want to play it, because you're enjoying the game and you're still experiencing what the mechanics are, let the player do what they want, because they're going to remember it for the great reasons. It's one of the reasons why I remember Deus Ex as one of the greatest experiences, because as much as I was resetting it, there was nothing on the screen telling me I was doing something wrong. So I had a really nice time with it. You know, maybe I accidentally killed someone once. I think it might have been when one guy dropped in electrified water, but it wasn't my fault. Like, I swear to God. But it was a great experience to have anyway. And that's kind of what this big talk was about. Thank you.